much every year I post something somewhere about being an overgiver, the dynamic of overgiving. And pretty much every year I get pushback, sometimes big pushback, from people who say there is no such thing as overgiving. So this year I actually want to address that because A, there very much is such a thing as overgiving. B, you may be an overgiver and not realize it. Or C, you don't realize there's such a thing as overgiving because you're not in any kind of overgiving dynamic. So let's talk about this for just a few minutes. This is completely off the cuff. I'm actually sitting here writing something and got a message and said, okay, I just need to pause and address this. So first of all, first thing to know is that giving is a dynamic. It's an exchange of giving and receiving. And for it to be a valid dynamic, a valid exchange, there has to be balance. There has to be balance between the giving and receiving. If it's not in balance, no matter how much or how little you're giving, this is happening. So the next thing to consider is giving and how it relates to people pleasing. Because we've been talking about people pleasing a lot. And here's the thing, when the giving, if you are over giving in particular, and it's getting out of balance, it goes from giving to transactional. Your giving becomes transactional. Perhaps you're giving too much for the receiver to receive because you're leveraging it to try to earn love or belonging or something like that. You may not realize it. You may be a generous person in general and not realize that it's tipping over into something uncomfortable for the recipient, and for them it's feeling transactional. It's feeling over the top. Now, there are going to be a bunch of caveats in all of this, and here's one of them. That feeling that your recipient's having of it being too much and becoming transactional, it could be a reflection of their ability to receive. Again, giving and receiving are meant to be in balance. And if they get out of balance, they become transactional. And that can be on either side. Either side. So again, people pleasing enters this dynamic when we are over giving in hopes, consciously or unconsciously, of getting something in return. Now, let's say that I think one of the arguments I frequently get is I overgive to my kids and grandkids all the time. It's not overgiving. Well, that may be the dynamic within your family. So it's not out of balance. It's not out of balance. It could be that your kids and grandkids are overjoyed no matter what you give. That could be your family dynamic. And so it's already in balance. But what if that's not your family dynamic? Or what if you marry into, or you're perhaps dating or whatever, somebody where that's not their family dynamic? Maybe their family dynamic is small gifts or drawing names or no gifts. I mean, my brother and sister and I stopped giving each other gifts decades ago and focused on our children and then the grandchildren and our parents while they were still living. But my brother and sister and I didn't give each other anything. And that was an act of generosity towards each other because we knew where we wanted to put our giving emphasis. so that it did feel balanced to us. It felt perfectly, perfectly balanced to us. And that's part of it. Again, lots of caveats and probably lots of me repeating myself because this is totally off the cuff. But if you think overgiving is, kind and generous and selfless, I mean, come on, that is so tempting, right? And if you are a kind, generous person, then yeah, you do. It's sort of like this dynamic of I take care of my own, which that's a good thing. But the clue is overgiving. And here's some clues, maybe some more specific clues. Overgiving, I mentioned that it could come out of people pleasing. Well, what does that look like? There could be a sense of fear or obligation or a deep insecurity about whether they love you or whether they like you, or to what degree do you have to prove that you're worthy of being loved and liked, which that right there could be a clue that you perceive your self-worth as wobbly. I'm going to tell you that your self-worth is actually just fine. It's what's calling you to do your own work. It's actually innate. We lose touch with it, but it's always there. That's something actually that needs its own video, its own lesson. So let me make a note. I love it when that happens. Here's another clue that may not seem obvious. Overgiving could come out of your need to control how people see you. You want them to see you as kind and generous, and maybe you really are. Let's say that again and again and again. Maybe you really are, but you're afraid they don't see you that way. So you overgive trying to control how they see you instead of letting how they see you evolve more organically. And the piece about being transactional, here's another piece of that. There's something going on in the back of your head, again, maybe unconsciously. It's like, surely if I overgive, they'll finally give me what I really want. They've never given me what I really want. They don't even see what I really want. They just want to give me what they want to give me. So maybe if I overgive them, they'll finally see what I really want and finally give me what I really want. I mean, there can be a tangle going on back there in the background, in the subconscious. Another clue, overgiving, that can be a way for you to ward off your latent feelings of being abandoned. Maybe you felt abandoned as a child or overly criticized. If I give lots and lots of gifts and the perfect gifts, I won't get criticized. Or they'll be grateful and I won't feel abandoned. It will contribute to my belongingness. Overgiving. This is kind of leading into overgiving may be a clue that you have expectations. Expectations about how it's going to be received, what it's going to do for you, how they're going to react, how they're going to thank you. Anytime you give anything with expectations on the other person, oh, we're right back to transactional. Expectations means it wasn't freely given. Because when we do freely give, we give and basically let it go. We let them receive it however they can, however they will. We let them decide how to respond, even if it's not the way we expect them to respond. Even if we complain, well, my grandchildren never write me a thank you note. Maybe they don't. But that's an expectation. And that just turns your giving into something transactional. Because true generosity, it feels light and freeing and expansive. Whereas overgiving, it starts feeling weighty and burdensome, kind of cramped, and then limited by your expectations. And then you're kind of the Grinch. You, you are kind of the Grinch. So, excuse me, give this some thought this holiday season. Give this some thought. If you think or have thought that overgiving is kind, generous, selfless, just give yourself a pause. Give yourself a pause. It's so tempting to think that, yeah. But the clue is overgiving. And do you feel the need to overgive? And then start connecting that to people-pleasing behaviors. Because if you're a people pleaser or a recovering people pleaser, there may be a connection for you to recognize for the sake of your own healing. Your own healing. So let that soak in. Let it marinate. Let it marinate. And let it contribute to a more balanced, truly generous, heart open holiday season for you and your family and your friends. That's your homework. Bye for now.